Now then, people, it's Joe, All Leeds TV, and we're back again for international break. We thought we would do another review with our friends from across the pond, Jimmy and Mike from the Mostly Soccer Pod. How are you doing, lads? All right?
Hanging in there.
Good. Yeah,
doing really well.
Good to hear. Oscar's gonna take us away tonight. Anyway, he's giving me the night off. So just before I hand over to him, I just want to remind everyone that this video is sponsored by Football Prizes. This week, you can get your hands on a Luke Ayling signed montage in a large Leeds Championship mount. I'm just checking now for everyone. It's only £2.75 a ticket on that. And to be honest, I'm just going to have a quick little look now, see how many's left on that. So just bear with me one sec. There is still 49 tickets still available, and there's 2 days running on that. It's only £2.75 a ticket. And also, guys, you can also get a Rodrigo framed signed boot. If for any reason we do have any Tottenham fans watching, I very much doubt it. You can also choose a Harry Kane and Dele Alli signed boot, but I don't think Dele will be there much longer anyway, to be fair. So you'll probably have to bin that off at some point. So you might as well go for the Rodrigo one, even if you are a Spurs fan, because he's here to stay. But that's Football Prizes. The link to the description is in the comments. So if you fancy having a go at that, head on over. And just for the guys at Mostly Soccer Pod as well, it isn't just Leeds United stuff. There is a Wayne Rooney signed Manchester United shirt.
We're good.
There is a Paolo Maldini signed and framed Italy shirt. A Messi signed and framed photo as well. So if any of them tickle your fancy, get on over there and check them out. And I'm now going to hand you over to Oscar. So there you go, Oscar. All done.
Well, fellas, I guess last time we all met was that last international break. I think football's been pretty terrible for all of us, hasn't it, since then? I think we've all had a pretty rough time of it, haven't we? But, yeah, I guess, just go through all the teams. And, I think last time our predictions haven't been so good from the last time. But they're going to be better this time. We're going to get it spot on this time. Let's start with the best team of all, the main team, Leeds United. And I'd be interested... I'll start with Jimmy. What should be your thoughts on Leeds? Last 4 games or so, it's kind of been a bit rough for us. What have your general thoughts been on the games if you've seen them, mate?
Yeah, so it's been a bit of a rough patch. I will say that. I do feel almost, so when we were on here last time, we had talked a lot. I think Mike and I had come on here and we were talking about our concern about defensively with Leeds. And you had reassured us that we were wrong, and that the defense, would really solidify itself. And I think it's, our fears have come to fruition a little bit here, particularly over the last 2 matches, both 4-1 defeats. I do want to say, I think, at least last match against Palace, the VAR decision played such a factor in that one that I feel like it's kind of hard to, hold that against them, because we don't know how that game would have played out. It could be 1-1 and we go from there and it's a completely different match. I was just that impacts it a lot to me. But I do say, I think there are some clear defensive issues, specifically on the counter. They just look very vulnerable right now. And when you're not taking your chances as well as they were doing maybe earlier in the season, it's a little concern.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Obviously on the counter-attack, I think you've seen from the last 2 games, Leicester City, Crystal Palace, have Harvey Barnes, Jamie Vardy, Wilfried Zaha, players like that. I think it has been tough for us. I think obviously Wolves, that game, obviously the first of game back from kind of the international break, we played quite well in that game. But in the second half, when the game got a little bit stretched out, Wolves start to get the counter attack going. It did cause us a couple of problems, but yeah, I think obviously, from a Leeds fan's point of view, I think what you've said there is perfectly reasonable. Would you echo those thoughts, Mike? I think obviously just looking at this little stats here, I think the big thing is obviously, as Jim Hughes said, conceding the joint most goals in the league so far this season. But in terms of scoring goals, of course, there's missed chances have been missed, but obviously Patrick Bamford scored 7 in his last 8. What are your general thoughts? Is it literally just a simple case of Leeds are great going forwards, Mike, poor defensively, or do you think there's more to it at the minute? Are we reading too much into it at this minute in time, do you think?
I think when you come up from the championship, you're going to have times like this. You're going to get super hot, and then you're going to get a little bit cold and even out a little. With Leeds, though, and we talked about this on our podcast, the last few games, they had just looked so open. They conceded 4 to Leicester. They conceded 4 to Palace. And it was just not looking like the normal Leeds that we had seen earlier. Granted, we expressed some concern, Jimmy and I, the last time we were on the podcast about Leeds leaking goals. And you guys told us that, no, they're a good defensive team. But I'm not sure who to believe anymore. I want to say, though, Patrick Bamford, he has been phenomenal. But he has a little bit of Lacazette in him, just from being an Arsenal fan. I think he has the capacity to score a ton of goals like he already has, should have 8. That offsides call was one of the most egregious things I've ever seen in my entire life. But he has a little bit of Lacazette in him. I mean, he doesn't take all of his chances. He scored 2 fantastic goals against Palace, one which was called back, and the second one was just as stunning as the first. But I feel like some of the easy ones he wasn't scoring. And I'm not sure if it was the Leicester game, but I know in one of those matches he had a lot of chances and he just didn't really get it.
Yeah, there was the Leicester game. I think even the Aston Villa game where he scored the hat-trick, the second half hat-trick was just stunning.
Right.
But there was some chance in that first half where you're thinking, is that going to come back to haunt us as such? But just to say, guys, Joe will be back in the second. He is just he's had a calling as such, but he will be back in a second anyway, guys. He will be back. Don't worry about that, guys. But yeah, that's the thing with Leeds. I think obviously being a newly promoted team, naturally inconsistent. I think's the big thing. But you compare us, Joe, to the other Leeds United so far this season, compared to the other promoted teams. They've been worlds apart, haven't they? And as much as it's been a bad last 3 or 4 games for Leeds, you've still got to say, looking at the rest of the league, Fulham, West Brom, there's no threat of anything really bad developing at this Leeds at the minute, would you say?
Me, yeah. Sorry, guys, I just had to shoot. One of the kids is started to have a bit of a wobble, so I had to make sure she was all right. It's like live TV and all that. But yeah, no, mate. Look, if you compare us with not Sheffield United, sorry, West Brom, Fulham, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? For me, neither of them sides. You can clip this up, but I don't think neither of them sides have a cat in hell's chance of staying in the division, if I'm being totally honest. I think all fans outside of Leeds would look at it and say, do you know what? They're newly promoted. They'll do all right. But I think Leeds United fans, because we know what our capabilities are, I think there's a lot more worry amongst Leeds United fans than there probably is outside of that group, because I think a lot of other opposing fans look at Leeds and think, yeah, they're totally fine. We've already seen, I think there's a lot made on the last 2 games, obviously conceding 8 goals. I understand it against Leicester, maybe not so much against Palace, but it was more the way the team's set up. I look at the next run of games now, and I know this might sound wild, but, in that run, we've got the likes of Man United. That's a little bit later on, but there you go. We've got Arsenal, Everton, Chelsea. Let's just have a look at them. Man United's after West Ham and Newcastle. But I'm more concerned about West Ham and Newcastle than I am against the other teams. And that's due to the way that they will set up. They'll be difficult to break down and they'll look to catch us on the counter. Whereas I look at like Everton, Chelsea, Man United, they're going to come and want to play football. They're going to come and want to have a go, which then leaves space for Leeds United to play in. So I'm really excited for the next run of fixtures, and we'll see where the land lies after them, I guess. But there is no concerns from me anyway about us being in any sort of dogfight. But if we were to lose these next 4 that you've got flashed up, then I might think differently. But I just don't think we will, and I think we'll come out, Mike, and give Arsenal a bit of a turning over. Wait and see.
It's going to be close. I don't know if you guys wanted to talk about that later.
We can do.
Obviously, the big one is coming up next weekend. The game everyone wants to see, Leeds Arsenal. But Mike, if you're looking at those games for Leeds United, would you agree with Joe that it's against these lesser teams that sit back more? Like Palace did, like Wolves did. In the last kind of 4 games, we've faced that quite a bit. I think only really Aston Villa. I don't know if you'd agree with this, Joe. I think Aston Villa were the only real team that really tried to go toe-to-toe with us, and we just completely steamrolled them in the second half. They couldn't match us in terms of our intensity in that second half. Would you look at that, Mike, and say, there's a big opportunity there for Leeds. Okay, if you take the Arsenal game out, for Leeds to get some points there, in the next 4 games or so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even including the Arsenal game, Arsenal might be their best chance to get points if I'm being perfectly honest. But Leeds, you're right. I think they do play better against teams who come at them and try and play. So they might find more success against an Everton or a Chelsea. I think that Arsenal game is going to be tough for them because Arsenal, you'd expect them to come out and play, but they really haven't. They've sat back. They've defended deep and tried to catch you on the counter. And from what I've seen of Leeds, that's what really bites them. Leicester did a great job at exposing them there. It looked like every time Leicester went forward against them, they were going to score. And I felt the same way in that Palace game, really. So I think there's a chance to take points from each of those teams. Everton and Chelsea, I mean, not especially strong either. Arsenal, I think West Ham might be the toughest game of that next 4, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I would have to echo, Joe and Mike, I think West Ham is the toughest game, I think West Ham have got all the capabilities to do what Leicester and Palace have done to us. You've got Antonio, Bowen, Benrahma, obviously probably will be a bit more established in the team by then.
Yep.
Haller coming off the bench. You've got a lot of energy and pace and a team that can sit back as well and do tend to sit back in those kind of games away from home. I mean, that's the one for me. I look at that next 3 and I think we will win one of them. I do genuinely think we'll win at least one of them. Which one it is, I don't know. It's the Premier League. At the end of the day, it's hard to say. But I've still got the confidence there. But I mean, Jimmy, obviously, City Leeds, probably the game of the season so far in the whole league. If we're not being too biased, I think both teams just went for it on the day. I mean, from Man City fans' point of view, did you look at that Leeds team and think they're going to beat some of the top 6 this season? They're going to win some games against the top 6. Do you feel they've got a real chance against anyone in that top 6, top 7?
Absolutely. I think, honestly, it's an interesting thing because they play a very possession-based game, but they play it with a really, I think intensity, like you said before, is a really good word. Because if you look back to like the Villa game, the intensity they played at was just something Villa couldn't keep up with. And I think a lot of times when you play these matches against these like top 6 teams, that's what you need to beat them, is just you need more intensity. But the thing that Leeds have is they have quality with it. So I definitely like looking back at how they played against Liverpool in the opening match of the season and then the City match as well. It just, the way they played just puts them in positions where they have a real shot in those games. I thought Leeds outplayed City, and maybe it's just me being the way the season's gone so far for City has been such a, disappointment in a lot of ways. But City came out of the block and that one was awesome. Like the first 20 minutes, City looked like they were going to dominate that. That was like the best I've seen them play. And then Leeds just they absorbed it. They played much better defensively than I think they've played recently for sure. But I think if they play a team like City that are gonna, try to bring it to them, they may have difficulty sometimes with these top teams, but I think it fits the way Leeds play more because it gives them a chance to use their intensity and use their ability to counter themselves. Whereas they have these teams sitting back at them and just, like we said, the little bit of defensive fragility, they allow themselves to get counters where I think they need to worry. So I think against the, top teams and just below that, I think is actually where Leeds will have more success than when they're playing, someone like Palace who's kind of willing to, sit back and counter.
I think as well, just on that as well, I think we're missing key personnel as well. Like, obviously, Rodrigo, it's crazy just how great of an impact he has had. Obviously, KP is a massive miss anyway. I think everyone knows that. But I just think when we are trying to break down them teams that defend so deep, you need someone with the quality of Rodrigo who can knit it all together and combine with Click. I just think Pablo was off it in that game against Leicester, obviously. Then never played against Palace. And we just didn't really get going for me. And that's been a real issue, and it sort of showed to me that maybe the depth isn't quite there. That's just my opinion. Others will disagree from a Leeds fan
Joe,
perspective.
But we talk about the defensive issues, but the big thing is the defender we spent the most money on, Llorente, we've not even seen yet. And obviously, you look at the 2 big ones, KP, Llorente. It's hard. I think obviously. The thing I'd say about obviously Leeds are 14th at the minute and obviously go across the board here. I mean, do you see, Joe, Leeds finishing higher or lower or around the same kind of place as 14th? I mean, after 8 games, or what you say, when we get the main players back, do you think we're going to go rise again like we did in September, start of October? Do you see us rising again?
Yeah, listen, I know. You know what I'm like. I get
I
giddy,
think we
man.
said top 6 last time.
Yeah, exactly, man. I was knocking on the door of Europe after 2 games. Listen, mate, we'll be fine. I do think we can push that. It's not out of the realms of possibility of. I don't want to over egg it, man. I'm watching what I'm saying here, but nah, top 10 and above for me, genuinely. Even still, look, people will laugh because we've just been spanked. You know, conceded 8 goals for 2 of our own against Leicester and Palace, but. No, I think we'll be fine, mate. I mean, I genuinely think I get where Mike's coming from with the Arsenal game and the attacking threat that they have, and they have been sitting in. And when Thomas Partey, etc., and then when at the top end you've got Aubameyang, Pepe, Willian, however which way it goes, even Nketiah. We know Nketiah off the bench, man. He's a goal machine. We know that ourselves, so it's going to be tough, but. I think we'll pick up some wins in these next lot of games, and the media narrative will change, and that again, and Leeds fans' optimism will change. But know that, I guess, ask me after these next lot of games. Really, is what I'm saying, because I'm sitting here confident, thinking, yeah, we needed the time off. We're now getting players back. KP's probably going to be back. Rodrigo, I think Rafinha will start on the right instead of Costa. I just think it'll just look totally different against Arsenal. It will. And even if we were to get beat, we'll make a good account of ourselves, which then gives us confidence going into Everton and Chelsea. Chelsea's the one for me. I want that so bad.
I mean, like Jimmy, I asked Joe a question last week. No, not last week. On Monday. Would you rather, I think, obviously Arsenal-Everton, would you rather win Arsenal and Everton but get beat by Chelsea or lose Arsenal-Everton but beat Chelsea 3-0? And you guys know what Joey said.
There are a few things
Jimmy first. I mean, what would you say? Obviously, I think when we last spoke, you were thinking kind of top 10, maybe a little bit below top 10. I mean, do you think Leeds 14th is a fair reflection, or do you think they're going to rise a little bit, or what's your opinion on that?
I think I said 9 to 11 range, and I want to stick with that. And here's what I think. I obviously, like you said, it's Everton, it's Arsenal, Everton, Chelsea, West Ham next 4, right? And then United after that. It's not an easy run, but it's not going to be most of the season. Like most of the teams you're going to play are not going to be easy. Even the bottom half teams, not easy wins in this league. So they may dip a little right now and stay around this range for, a few weeks or so, which I'm not convinced at, but it's possible. But I think at the end of the year, I still think 11th, I think is what I said. And I'm going to stick with it. I think that's where they are. And I think that's a great spot to be a promoted club, to get to there and then to continue to, build on that, which I think is the key. Also, they've brought a lot of different players in. We talked about Rafinha, obviously Rodrigo's new player. You talked about Llorente. Like there's players that are still coming in, haven't really, necessarily gelled yet. So over the season, I think as that starts to happen, I think that definitely around that range, 9 to 11 is where they belong, based off of quality and just style of play. I mean, I hope watching them, I've said it. I think, Mike, we said it last time too, is like, if Leeds are on, I'll watch that game. It's a game I'll watch. I enjoy watching them play, which I would think if, as you guys, as Leeds fans, like that's what you want to hear from a neutral, is like that you want to watch your team. And that's how I feel.
Yeah. I
would you agree with that, Mike? Would you say 9 to 11, or what's your kind of opinion on that? If you're looking at it now.
Yeah, I was going to say 12th is probably the lowest I'd go for Leeds. They're just too good. I mean, I don't want to repeat everything Jimmy said, but they're so fun to watch. They're going to bring it to teams and they're going to score goals. And when they play teams like Fulham or West Brom, like you guys were saying earlier, I think they're going to beat them up pretty badly. And even teams at the top, I mean, they're going to give everyone a game. And that's why Leeds they're going to be here for a while, I think, in the Premier League. They're going to be a fixture here again. And I mean, if you're a Leeds fan, even if you lose these next 4 or 5 games in a row, I would have no concern for you at all.
Yeah, man, we need more mics. We need more mics. this.
Listen, if Arsenal loses one game, I'm in shambles for 3 weeks. But when I look at from the outside in on other teams, I can be more reasonable. And I'm telling you that Leeds have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Joe. I mean, very interesting, hearing what Jimmy and Mike have said. I've not heard really, within the Leeds media and that lot and outside, anyone kind of really, obviously TalkSport tried to make it all dramatic and that lot. And so I'd say that Leeds are going into League One in the next by 2022 and that lot. But I mean, you look at it, but I'll be honest, next 4 games, even if we only win 1 or even, do pretty poorly in these next 4 games, I'm still not going to be particularly worried. I've still seen enough in those 8 games for me to say that, yeah, you know what, we're going to make an impression of ourselves this season. Even, you say about the Arsenal game, even if we don't get anything from the game, I can't see us getting hammered again. I can't see after 2 weeks on the training pitch, Bielsa's had time to properly assess things from that game, maybe switch things up, new players coming back from injury. I can't see us getting hammered again like that against Arsenal. Maybe people will clip this up, but I can't see it. I think maybe you might face the odd team on their day, but I just can't see us getting hammered again. I really do think we're going to put an impression in against Arsenal. I just can't see anything else. But I'm looking at it, guys. I'm thinking we're going to finish higher. I maybe not much higher, but we're not finishing lower. I've looked at the rest of that league so far, and we're obviously going to go through it later on. But obviously, just to move on a little bit, guys. Obviously, we're looking at the top of the table. Top of the table at the minute is Leicester City, and I guess, guys, the question is: Leicester's next game is Liverpool away. If Leicester City win that game, Jimmy, can we seriously talk about them repeating 2016 again, winning the league? Can Leicester City win the league this season?
Here's what I'm going to say. One, they couldn't ask for a better time to play Liverpool. I mean, Joe Gomez down now. He had surgery, so he's out. Mohamed Salah today, COVID-19, he's out. So if you're looking at a time to play Liverpool, this is that time.
Yeah.
And in the way Leicester, the way Leicester play, which has been, quite frankly, when I watched them play City, it was the most annoying thing. Their counter is just, it's so deadly. They allow you to play your game, and then if you slip up for a second, they just catch you, and they're deadly on it. And I could see them doing that again here to Liverpool. I would not be surprised if Leicester were able to win this. I would not be surprised if they were able to win this one. But I don't think we're going to see them repeat and win the league again, because I think this is what the Brendan Rodgers teams do. They come out hot and they start off so well, and then it just slowly dips just a little bit each season. And I mean, it's what happened. It happened last year, and again, injuries were a big factor in that. But we'll see.
And Mike, I mean, obviously, Jim, as Jimmy said there, obviously Brendan Rodgers is the big factor behind Leicester so far. But they're notorious, aren't they, Brendan Rodgers teams? Thinking back to Liverpool when they had Suarez, they fell away that last 2 or 3 games. Last season, top 4, they fell away. Well, obviously, speaking to Locks last couple of weeks, he's made the points that Leicester City now, I think Rodgers has seen what's happened over the last couple of seasons with his teams at this level. You can effectively field 2 different teams. He's got the Europa League, he fields one team, and the Premier League, he fields a totally different 11. I mean, do you look at it, Mike, and say, Leicester City, in terms of what they've got going forward, Jamie Vardy, I think it's 8 goals in 7 games already this season. Do you think there's enough there for Leicester to seriously push the season, or at the very least improve on last season again and finish in that top 4?
I do think so, and I apologize if I missed any of this conversation before. My computer completely froze. But anyways, on the Leicester topic, I do think they're going to improve from last season because they just tailed off so terribly towards the end. I know Project Restart is probably a big reason for that, but they had a terrible run. And like you said, they're a deep team now. Aside from defensively, that midfield, that top line, I think is pretty solidly stacked up with very quality players. I think they're going to continue to push the top of the table. Do I think they're going to win the league? No. But I just saw something that flashed on the screen that said I think Leicester will beat Liverpool, and I think I would probably agree with that sentiment.
I mean, Joe, I guess, you look at this season at the minute, weird things are happening in this league. I don't think there's any home advantage. You look at most teams, Leeds have won one game at home all season. They've won, is it 3 away, 2 away, whatever it is. The fact of the matter is there's no evidence at the minute that there's any home advantage, with no fans in the ground. This is probably one of the best times for Leicester to really not only push for the title, because strange things happen in the league, but Liverpool, the way itself, as Jimmy was saying, there's injuries. What would you say? Can Leicester win that game at Liverpool? And if they do, why not? Why can't they go all the way?
I think I agree with Mike. I think they will win. Just due to look, Liverpool have key personnel out, and we've seen they like to play a high line. And, we've seen against Villa, for example, they can be got at. If you're then going to play a high line, which I think Klopp will continue to do, regardless of the personnel, you're then bringing in lesser personnel that maybe aren't used to it as much as what a Van Dijk and Gomez are when they're partnership. Do you understand what I'm saying? So whether he plays Fabinho in there and brings one of the youth lads, I'm not sure who's going to play centre back for them, and I just think it's prime for Leicester and the counter and Vardy, and on Leicester as well. I mean, they've had a great start, and let's not forget as well, they're missing key personnel in that back line. Soyuncu, I think they were missing Evans as well for our game, and this done so well, and I believe they've got 100% away record as well, right?
Fofana, who we spoke about last week, he wasn't supposed to be starting games at this point. They've kind of had to put him in. Under as well. The recruitment's been really strong, hasn't it? At Leicester this season. But I think the thing is, guys, I look at it this season and think anything can happen at the minute. No fans in the grounds. If one team gets everyone is out of COVID or something like that, it really is going to play a part, this season, at different times. Obviously Salah, is going to be out of that game as well. I look at it and think, if Leicester don't get anything from Liverpool, you've got to look at it then and say, well, you've not had a better chance to get a result against a team who's going to definitely be up there. I think you probably are going to see, what Leicester are about, at the end of the day. I mean, I think it's all well and good, obviously beating us, Wolves, etc., etc. Obviously we're good teams, but I think it's competing against those top teams, producing performances like they did. And I apologise to this, Jimmy, because it's led me on to something else now. Like they did against Manchester City, and let's talk about Man City a little bit. It's been a bit of a start to the season for you guys, hasn't it? I mean, obviously the big game was last weekend. I mean, what were your thoughts on that game, mate? First of all, I mean, it was one of those. I think it started really quick. First 20, 30 minutes, and then second half, both teams just happy with the draw.
Yeah, I think that puts it perfectly. I mean, I thought Liverpool started better in the first 10 minutes or so. Obviously got the penalty. And then City really came on after that for the second half of the first half. And then, like you said, the second half, both teams just seemed to be okay with the draw, which is a little disappointing from the City fan perspective, just because Liverpool were banged up. Even in this, obviously in this match, not as banged up as they're going to be against Leicester, but they were pretty banged up. And to have the opportunity there, we saw Gabriel Jesus had actually the free header that he just put wide, which could have won it. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne missed the penalty, which wasn't great either. So the opportunity was there, but this is kind of what City's season has been. They've been unable to score more than one goal in pretty much every game. Unless in the Champions League, they've been able to break out of that. But in the league, they're just not scoring that many goals. There you go, scored just 10 goals and conceded 9.
Why do you think that is, Jimmy? I mean, I was looking at it in the Liverpool game, and I've not seen loads of City this season, I'll be honest. I've not seen loads of City, but I can't work it out because you've got De Bruyne, you've got Sterling. I did think, on another day, obviously De Bruyne sticks that penalty away. Jesus probably sticks that header away, and you probably get 3 goals in that game. But do you think there's any specific reason for? I mean, obviously defensively, 9 goals conceded in 8 games isn't great either. But we've got to factor in that Leicester game massively distorts that. I think for me, City defensively have probably been the best team by a long, long way so far this season. I mean, it's quite unlike Pep Guardiola. You don't normally associate this with him, nicking games 1-0 kind of thing. You don't really associate that being a Guardiola kind of way. But do you think there's anything to it, or it's just the fact we're so early in the season and it's probably going to City are going to go crazy after the international break?
Well, I do think it's going to change. I think a big part of it has been obviously they haven't had a healthy striker for the majority of the season. Aguero's been out. He came back, played one match, went out again. This is only his second match of the season. So they've been basically playing with either Sterling or Mahrez, basically trying to fill that role. We saw Delap got a couple minutes against Leicester, did not go too well there. And hasn't been back since. So they just haven't really had a striker, which, that being said, though, you have players, Sterling, Mahrez, De Bruyne. You go through the list. These are players who score goals. I mean, Sterling scored 20 goals last season or whatever it was. I mean,
no one's scored more than 2 for City so far.
Yeah.
It's not just a case of the strikers miss. Do you think it's just everything's going wrong in that kind of?
Yeah, I think like you said, everything's going wrong. I think it's more just they used to get a lot of like cheap goals. When you saw City at their best, it's like 18, 19, 17, 18 seasons. It was a lot of like just passing it across the goal to an easy tap. And you saw Sterling and Sane were the king of this for a long time. And it hasn't happened. Teams have really, they've dropped back in a way and they just haven't given City any space. There's no space there. And just the injuries have mounted up. City have had I think actually 15 first team players injured this season. Like it's a shocking number between a few players being out with COVID and that, but it's still not excuses. They still have top level players. They need to score more than one a game. They've just looked, it's like a kind of like malaise over the team. It's just kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. And I don't know if they can explain it. They have played more defensively. They've actually been, like you said, very good defensively all around from the midfield through the back line. I think Ruben Diaz has been an actual great acquisition to really solidify that. We've even seen Cancelo have a good run of form as a left back, but just they lack some creativity, which is not something you expect from, like you said, from a Pep team. I do think that they will eventually get out of this. I think if you see Aguero back, if Jesus stays healthy, these are players who are going to score goals. They're going to score more than one a game, but they do have some serious concern right now. They do look like they're just lacking something. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is.
I mean, Mike, obviously, as Jimmy said, and I'd have to echo Jimmy's thoughts, there. And for me, Diaz has been superb so far, for City. I mean, what's your thoughts been on him so far? City defensively have pretty much been keeping clean sheets week in, week out. Bar, obviously against Liverpool. I mean, do you think Diaz has been the big factor in all of that, or Laporte possibly coming into full fitness now as well? I mean, do you see that as the best pairing in the league as well, Diaz Laporte at the moment?
I think Diaz has looked very good. And I think Laporte being healthy is a very big factor in City keeping a lot of clean sheets and keeping the score down. What I think, and Jimmy might actually agree with this, has been City's biggest boost to their defense is finally getting rid of Benjamin Mendy and João Cancelo coming into his own. Mm-hmm. Benjamin Mendy can't play, and João Cancelo has been superb since really Diaz came in, I think.
Portuguese connection.
Yeah, that's been game changing. And I mean, Cancelo hasn't really been playing as a pure left back or left back rather. He's kind of been floating around the midfield, drifting in, and I think that's been a key tactic for them. And again, I would say Diaz has been a superb signing for City. I think he's going to continue to be. But one point that I want to make about City, and I make this to Jimmy every week, and he knows exactly where I'm going. And I want to ask you guys: are City the most boring team in the league to watch? Because I think they've become that. And that's genuine, not a shot at Jimmy because he's a City fan. Every game I watch from City, like we said, they've had trouble scoring goals. They don't score anymore. They miss chances from inside the net. Example, Raheem Sterling. And they're sideways past FC. That's what Manchester City is this year.
Have you ever watched Burnley?
Hey, they got Ashley Barnes. They got Chris Wood. They got 2 bruisers up top. I like the smash and grab.
I mean, Joe, what do you obviously City have lost their edge. Obviously last season they weren't great, and obviously a lot of it was put down to Laporte. But do you think this is a little bit of a factor with City? Obviously David Silva's gone, a lot of the old guard's gone. David Silva, Sergio Aguero, Company, probably the main one of all, the leader of it all. Fernandinho's kind of getting a bit older as well. Do you think that's a big factor at City? They've just not replaced the old guard at all.
Yeah, I would go along with that 100%. When you take them type of characters out of any side, it's going to be a massive loss, isn't it? Trying to replace them. I think with City as well, and I keep saying it, and I'll keep bringing it up, is there's a little bit of uncertainty still with Pep. You know, what's going on there? Why isn't he signed a new deal? I hear it all the time from media, and you can't always buy into it, but there's a lot of stuff of how players can sort of get a little bit bored towards the end of the methods, and there's only a short cycle. You know, we've heard it said about Bielsa in that it's intense and it's, you know, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Is like, this is what you must do, and you can take it in for so long, and then does it get to a point where you're like, oh man, I'm sick of this shit. Do you know what I mean?
I've been at one club, you know, I think a lot of people have said his golden rule tends to be 3 seasons. At Barcelona, he stayed past that 3 seasons, and his last season was just a disaster, really. And it's a big factor, isn't it, mate? You've got to say. I think it's same with Bielsa, those kind of intense managers. It's hard to. It's spot on, really. You know, I think
maintain the levels over.
You've seen it with Sean Dyche at Burnley as well, and Chris Wilder to an extent at Sheffield United. Players getting a bit bored, do you think?
Maybe that's the wrong word I'm using, but I'm just trying to say maybe it's in that period where Pep's coming to the end of his tenure. I think it's one of the worst starts. I think I read for one of. I know they've started to come into their own, but the last time we spoke, I think it was one of Pep's worst starts as a coach. And I just think there's a lot in the fact that he's not signed a new deal. You know. Why hasn't he signed a new deal? Because I spoke to a City fan before, and they said they would give Pep a 10-year contract tomorrow at the club. You know what I mean? He's that well thought of, but he's still not done it. And is there that little bit of unrest within the dressing room as well because of that? You know, because if you're not in the manager's favour and he's telling you to do X, Y, Z, and he's not signed a new deal, are you thinking, well, you're not going to be here past the summer anyway, so what does it matter kind of thing? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just throwing some things out there. I picked City to come back with a vengeance, and even the business they've done, I don't know. I just thought they'd get the checkbook out and they'd just go all in, you know, and be like, right, we're going to get this title back. But I don't know what's going on there. But they're going to be there or thereabouts towards the end of the season, aren't they? Let's be honest. And I think they'll be licking the lips at what's happening at Liverpool at the minute in terms of key personnel. I mean, it's like Liverpool going through a really bad patch in that respect. So City need to come out now after this international break and just start smashing teams because it's well within their capabilities to do so. You know, well within their capabilities. And now Jesus is fit. I'm not sure when Aguero's back, but having a focal point of the attack is massive. Let's be honest. I know Sterling, etc., got lots of goals and stuff last season, but you still need that focal point of the attack. I mean, Aguero's an absolute animal, isn't he? He's just a beast, man. So when's he due back, Jimmy?
It could be back as early as the next match, they're saying. But with him, you never quite know until you see him on the field with the injury history that he has. But they're saying he could be back. I would think, if not this one, but the next one, he should be back by then, hopefully.
I mean, look at your games, Jimmy. I mean, you know, Tottenham away, Burnley at home, Fulham at home, and obviously the big one, you know, Manchester derby away. I mean, what are you looking at that and thinking we can capitalise here? You know, with Liverpool probably going to drop a few points with so many key personnel missing. What's your kind of feeling on those 4 games? You think more frustrating drop points, or this is going to be the time where City are really going to put things together, win all 4 games, and really send out that statement to the rest of England?
Well, I will say the Tottenham game worries me a bit. Just Tottenham have been a real pain in the ass for City ever since that Champions League knockout round with the Llorente handball. It's been just a real pain. Son is just tortures them. So I do think that this is their chance, though, to get a good run of form. I think they looked pretty good against Liverpool. Like, I know in the end they kind of went for the draw in the second half, but they looked pretty good once they kind of sorted it out after the first 10 minutes or so. So I think they will have a good run of form here. I think they can win this Tottenham game. I think I predicted them to win on our show. And if they do, I don't foresee issues in the next few matches. The United game is always going to be challenging. the annoying thing is the way United play, which is pretty much without any tactics of just let's just counter everybody, actually is like the one way you can actually really bother City. If you just go out there and all you're going to do is try to counter them, which is basically what Leicester did to City. They just refused to play and then just countered every time City lost the ball, which is like the one thing that Ole can actually have his team do. So that game could actually be quite an annoying game. But I do think City are going to pick up. I think Jesus and Aguero make a big difference. Like Joe was saying, if Aguero's back there, Aguero's just a different animal than most strikers in the world, but definitely in the league. If he can get healthy, now granted, he's getting up there in age too. I mean, but if he's healthy, I think he'll just start putting goals away that the rest of the team just maybe hasn't capitalized on. Again, Sterling, Mahrez, they're great players, but they're not strikers. We've seen Ferran Torres playing at striker too. Again, 20-year-old, not a striker, trying to finish some chances that if Aguero got, they're going in.
I mean, I'm just going to go across the boards. Are we still thinking the top two is going to be Liverpool and City? If so, who's going to win out those two teams? If you're going to say 8 games into the season, what are we thinking? I mean, I'll go to Mike first. You just still think that's going to be the top two again?
I don't think so. It's so tough. I just don't rate both of them that highly this season. And I know it's naive. It's 8 games in, and I think 90% sure that they probably will finish there. But something inside me is telling me that they won't. I think we're gonna have a new team lift the title that's not City or Liverpool. I don't know who it's gonna be. Could be Aston Villa for all I know. But I don't know. I'm sure one of the two will be there, but I don't think it's going to be Liverpool City 1-2 either way.
Joe, what would you say? Do you still feel that's going to be the top two, or
I think
get a surprise?
I think Tottenham could sneak in. I do. I know that's painful for you, Mike. But yeah, no. Listen, if anyone can, Mourinho can, and he's getting a tune out of them. And I think what he's doing to Kane's phenomenal. If Kane, I don't know if one of you guys said it before. I think it might have been, how if he can still get 20 goals, but then add 20 assists to that tally as well, it's a totally different kettle of fish. And Sonaldo, I've just done his Player of the Month SBC actually on FIFA. He's an absolute beast, man. He's brilliant though, and he's so underrated. I know in England we rate, but he should be up there in the conversation with the best players in the world because he's that good for me. He's brilliant. And then you add Bale to that, who's just going to continue to tick over. We might have to wait until January time for Bale to be in full fettle. But no, once he gets going, man, he'll get going.
Won the game off the bench.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, Oscar. I think if anyone, I don't think Chelsea will maintain this run that they're on, right? I don't. And if anyone is going to break into that too, for me, it will be Tottenham, just because of Mourinho. And the players, not just Mourinho, they've got a top squad as well. Let's be honest. They have. And know that if they're there or thereabouts, Daniel Levy will go out and give Mourinho what he wants as well, I think, in January, if needs be. So they may be your ones. We'll have to wait and see.
Jimmy, the City fan, are you going to win the league?
I find it hard to pick against City, and I'm pretty good at not being biased. I think last year, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I did say Liverpool would win the league last season. I said City were going to win the Champions League, and that was just a goddamn disaster. But I do think I'm going to still say I think City can win the league. I'll pick them. I'll say they will. I say they will just because of the injuries that Liverpool have. I still think Liverpool and City on their day are above everyone else in the league. The question is, can they get to that level? I think the whole wacky COVID season is going to impact it. We're going to see, I think whoever wins the league might win it on 86 to 89 points, as opposed to having to be 98 and 99 points like we've seen the last few years. I think it's going to come back down a bit. I just think teams are going to lose matches they wouldn't lose before, just because of injuries piling up, because of how many games, the congestion that you're seeing. If they're going to continue to make these international friendlies happen with everything going on, which is just ridiculous, you're going to see players out. We talked to Gomez. We saw Ake's down for City now. He got injured in the Netherlands friendly Like, you're just going to see players injured. I do think they're the best two teams. I do agree with Joe that Tottenham would be the team I think that could get in there, just because the combo of Kane and Son are just deadly. If Bale gets going, Bergwijn's a good player. Lucas is a good player. We're seeing even Tanguy and Ndombele is actually, playing now and showing signs of the player that everyone thought he was. And, Mourinho, I know rubs Mike the wrong way, but he does find a way to always win something anywhere he's been. And I think he'll find a way to win something. I don't know if it's the league, but he's going to win something at Tottenham. I do believe that.
One thing I just want to say about Spurs is they're a great team, and I like a lot of the players that are on that team, and they're going to be up there. But all it takes with Jose Mourinho is a string of bad games, and everything can go south with that team. I mean, you saw them lose in the Europa League against Antwerp, and he called out the entire 11. He said that he wished he had 11 subs. It takes one match. It takes one match for Jose Mourinho to turn every single player in that locker room against him. That's all I'll say.
Do you think there's what I would say to counsel that is there's so much quality at that top end of the pitch that I think even if Eric Dyer has a disaster of a game, gives away 2 goals, I still feel Tottenham can concede 2 or 3 goals in a game and still get something at the very least. I still feel it's that much threat. Son, Kane, it feels like a 40-goal kind of partnership back this season.
I mean, you could look at Arsenal and say the same thing, but if you look at Spurs' last game, they just beat what I think is quite clearly the worst team in the league in West Brom 1-0, and they squeaked it out because Harry Kane scored a fantastic goal. I mean, Spurs are not the polished, finished thing that we think they are. I think they have the syndrome that Arsenal have. I mean, you look at them on paper and both teams are stunning, but they're going to lose games they're not supposed to. They're going to let you down. It's going to be a weird season for both of them, but Spurs, I'd be more optimistic if I were a Spurs fan, obviously, especially after this run that they've had.
When we spoke last time about breaking the top 2, and I've got to apologise to Mike here, but we're going to go on to Arsenal, because we all fancied Arsenal. We all did, to be the team to break that top 2. And obviously, it's been quite a disappointing. Obviously, just going to flash up, Arsenal's recent kind of little run. It's been a pretty poor run by Arsenal standards. I mean, that man there in the picture, Mikel Arteta, is getting a lot of criticism all of a sudden, Mike. Obviously, after the last couple of games. I mean, what's your kind of feelings on that? Do you think it's just ridiculous modern football fans just getting a bit
100%
over emotional, or are you genuinely concerned? I mean, the one thing I'd look at, Mike, here, only 4 teams in the whole league have attempted less shots than Arsenal. Is that something Arteta is really struggling to solve at the minute? Arsenal scoring goals?
Yes, Arsenal's not scoring is obviously a concern. With the players that we have, we should be scoring tons of goals. Like I said, you look at the team on paper, you'd think one of the scariest front lines in the league by far. The thing with the people calling for Arteta's head on Twitter, if you went on there last weekend, you would have saw people saying Mikel Arteta out. I think that is beyond insane. I think what Mikel Arteta has done in the short time that he's been with Arsenal, under a year, he's won the FA Cup, he's won the Community Shield, he's beaten top 6 teams that we would never beat before. So anyone calling for Mikel Arteta's head, you can come talk to me, and I think I'll straighten you out.
I love that.
Come to Johnson, I'll straighten you out. But no,
just to clarify, we're not making like we're not.
I want to fight you.
Fights here on.
I want to fight you.
International break is boring for everyone, but we're not going that far yet.
No, I want to fight.
We're not going that far yet.
If you have a problem with Arteta, come find me.
Logan Paul too, eh?
What I will say is it's frustrating, right? Because Mikel Arteta has solved a lot of problems with this Arsenal team already. We've played better with him than we've played since Wenger has left. Under Unai Emery, we've seen much better football under Arteta. We've seen a team that's organized. We've seen a team that before, I think this last match, I don't know what the stats are now, we've conceded the least goals in the Premier League. We've signed some fantastic players that you would think that Arsenal would not be able to sign in the position that we're in. Arteta is going to figure this out. What I said to Jimmy is that this is a team that's still dead in the middle of a rebuild. We're going to take time. But listen, we've already won trophies with Mikel Arteta. That's more than a lot of other teams can say. So as quick as I am to ring the alarm bell, as quick as I am to throw a temper tantrum online, with Mikel Arteta, I have no doubt in my mind that this team will turn it around. I think it's just going to take time.
What are you thinking going into
Oh,
Next game, then, obviously Leeds. What you kind of expect? Are you expecting a reaction at the very least, from Arsenal? Because I saw Arsenal's last away game at Man United. I thought that was a superb performance for me. I think on another day, Arsenal probably win that game pretty comfortably. I thought it looks like a team that's seriously going places. You've got Partey there, just marshalling the whole midfield. Gabriel at the back, an absolute monster at the back. Gabriel for me so far. I mean, are you expecting a big reaction from Arsenal against Leeds, or what are you kind of expecting from Arsenal this time?
I think they need a big reaction, because to go and lose at home to Villa, with as well as Villa are playing, and all credit to them, it's unacceptable. And I think Leeds, I'm high on Leeds, but I think they're playing Arsenal at a bad time. And I think the way that Leeds want to play, if Arteta is going to play that kind of counterattack style that we like to play right now, I think that's going to hurt Leeds. I said to Jimmy, I think a lot of people, including myself, think this game is going to have a lot of goals. But that's exactly why it won't have a lot of goals. It'll be a 1-0, 1-1 type game. I think Arsenal are going to come back. They're going to respond. I'm sorry to all the Leeds fans watching this, but I think you might take a loss against Arsenal here.
I mean, Joe, could we counter that and say, maybe you're playing Leeds at a bad time? We've always seen from Marcelo Bielsa's teams that we've responded well. Marcelo Bielsa's a professional prize. No matter how good the job he's done at Leeds United, losing 4-1, twice in the space of 5 days, surely it's, at least for the first 20, 30 minutes, we're going to see a really intense, high energy Leeds team that's just going to try and blow Arsenal away in that first 20, 30 minutes. Are you expecting that?
Yeah, I think it'll be a decent tactical, the two managers going up, because I think there's a lot to be said about Arteta and his tactical nous, and I think they will be. It might be a bit of a trade-off, and I think Mike might be onto a winner in saying that it might be low scoring. I do think, though, the main thing in my mind now as a Leeds United fan is just any team that's going to sit in and counter, and Arsenal have been doing that without scoring that many goals. I was quite surprised to see that they've scored, how many? 9? What was
not
the
a lot.
It's 9 and 8 they've scored.
Yeah, and only 4 sides in the league have attempted less shots. It'd be interesting to know what them 4 sides are. If it might probably be your Burnleys, your Newcastles.
Yeah, level with Burnley.
Company. Yeah, it's not great company, is it? So that's quite surprising, and that gives me renewed hope, if I'm being totally honest, because I think, right, okay, they might get us on the counter, but they're not taking a lot of efforts at goal. I don't know, but just on Arsenal, I was picking them, to push that top 2, and I thought the signing of William was really astute, and they did look really, really good. But one thing I will say about Arteta and Arsenal, he's got rid of that soft underbelly that they had, and have had, even towards the end of Wenger. I've seen a lot about Ozil. He should have been binned off a long time ago. I don't get this. He should be in European. I don't care. Like people say, we could have had him on. He'll be unlocked the door. He should have been binned off a long time ago. The guy's not what you want. Arteta's about grafters, If you compare him with Partey, I know they're in totally different positions, but you get what I'm saying. The signing he's brought in are people that are grafters.
He's hearing now, isn't he?
Man. Yeah. Ozil should have gone a long time ago, and he's just never been up for the fight, And I just think that's what Arteta has done. He's got rid of that soft underbelly, and like you spoke about, Mike, getting results against teams that you very rarely do. I think, the win against Man United, it was the first time I think you'd won away since the top 6 side since 2015.
Yep.
So that's steps in the right direction. So I'm bang on with Mike. People need to calm down. But it's football, isn't it? There'll be Leeds fans out there questioning Bielsa, and I just think it's batshit crazy. But that's what it is, Opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one. And this is just some are dirtier than others. That's what I like to But you get where I'm saying, Arsenal will be fine. Arsenal will push the top 4. Whether I said before whether or not they'll get in there, I'm not so sure now after seeing it, because there's better teams than them. You could say that obviously Liverpool, City, 2 spots sorted for me. You're then looking at Tottenham, Chelsea, which pains me to say it, Leicester, Wolves even, because Wolves will get results over a 38-game season just with the way they play, They might not blow teams away, but they will get results. So Arsenal might struggle, but they'll get into Europe. And I just agree with Mike. I think, Arteta's doing a good job, man. He's doing a good job. I know that I think the previous week, the same amount of games Unai Emery had, he actually had a worse record. But let's be honest, it's like chalk and cheese. Even though the record's less, it's still chalk and cheese. And he's won trophies, man. He's won trophies. And that's what we're in it for, right? I'm not in it 'cause I'm not a manager, but you get what I'm saying.
Jimmy, do you think, with that, with what Joe said there, obviously Arsenal sacked Arsene Wenger 2.5 years ago, and at the time we were very, very close to appointing Mikel Arteta.
Mm-hmm.
Had Arsenal decided to go for Mikel Arteta instead of Unai Emery, where do you think they would be now? Do you think they'd be up where City and Liverpool are at, or do you think Arteta's kind of ceiling's still a little bit debatable at the minute?
So I think very highly of Arteta. I think at the time, Mike and I both were thinking that they should have went that way than Emery. Emery kind of came out of nowhere with the way it did. But at the same time, I kind of look back at it now and think that maybe for Arteta's sake, it may have been better to be hired when he was. He learned a lot under Pep, and he got to be part of some great sides that City had, and they accomplished a lot of great things. And he was also there at the beginning of last year, so part of last year where things didn't quite go as well as they were hoped. And he was part of the first season, Pep's first season in the City, when things did not work out, and it took time to get the team there. So he's kind of got that experience through it. I get your point that I do think, if he had been there and started the rebuild, we could have, they could have been further along. But I do think he got some really important experience in the time that he was not there. So I think it puts him in a good spot now to get through these hard times, because there are going to be hard times. This team has some really good players, but it also has some players that need to move on. We talked about Ozil. We just if you go through the team, it's like there's holes in this team that are still there, but they've got some good players now. I think Gabriel has been, like you said, Oscar's been an insane signing. He's been so good. If you think of, you were talking about how good he was, in the United game, is he was exactly the player that United needed to sign and pair with Maguire, and he ended up going to Arsenal right under their nose. That's exactly what they needed. He looks fantastic. Partey's has been, I know he's a little banged up now, but just he's the midfielder Arsenal's been looking for since the Wenger era. He's that guy who just
baby.
He's just a baller. he's just a baller. The way he plays, he's got kind of, I'll throw him back to old City player, kind of like that Yaya Toure factor of he can just take the ball and just carry it all the way up the field and make something happen. It's just, I think they're gonna get there. It's just gonna take some time. You got to be patient. I say to Michael all the time, trust the process. It's gonna take some time.
Yeah. Did you say he's banged up? Is he injured? Is he, Mike?
He came off in the last match against Villa at halftime, and he didn't go on international duty. They say he has a little hamstring injury, but it doesn't seem like anything too crazy.
Okay. That's a big win if he doesn't make.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he misses the Leeds game.
That would be a big win.
There we
He
go.
might miss that one. I've got a feeling, Mike, he's missing that game.
You better hope you don't get prime Mohamed El Neni again, like you did against Manchester United.
Do you know what, though? Just on that as well, right? Arsenal clipped up a little short video of El Neni running and chasing down the Man United backline. And it made me laugh, really. So I was a bit and this is no disrespect, I was like, oh, bless, because the Leeds United whole team do that.
Yeah.
For the full, do you know what I mean? There was stages before in previous seasons where we're chasing down on the 91st minute. Well, Villa, for example, were 3-0 up and we're chasing down. I was a bit see, they're not used to that at Arsenal. It's changing now. It's changing, though. That's what I'm saying about that soft underbelly. But like this guy says here, look, I talk a lot of sense, but then at the same time talk a lot of bollocks. So
that makes perfect sense to me.
Well, I mean, we're talking about inexperienced managers. We're going to go on to another one now, who I think we were all kind of, to be fair, we were all very critical of him in the last one. It's Frank Lampard at Chelsea, and obviously we've seen Aubameyang struggles in front of goal at the minute. We're seeing Timo Werner struggles in front of the goal at the start of the season, but suddenly Chelsea have started to put a few results together. And obviously, myself and Joe have spoken about it a lot. We're not particularly convinced just yet. I think it's very much, for me, it's very much a case of wait and see. Let's see Chelsea play Arsenal. Let's see Chelsea play City and get results in those games. I mean, Mike, are you looking at Chelsea now and thinking, yeah, that's a team now that's really starting to get back to the levels they're at under Mourinho, under Conte, under Ancelotti, or do you still think it's a long, long way to go for Chelsea yet?
I don't think I'm putting them in the Conte or Mourinho era bracket right now. I think Chelsea have looked good, but who have they played, right? They haven't really played anyone that impressive, have they? Unless I'm misremembering. I mean, they played Sheffield, and when you concede a goal to Sheffield, that makes me a little bit worried for you.
They've got a goal kick as well.
Yeah. Sheffield don't score goals. I will say that bringing in the new goalkeeper in place of Kepa has just been a revelation for them, because Kepa is a horrific player, doesn't deserve to be on any field. But Chelsea, you guys hate Chelsea, and I fully am on board with that. I respect it. A little bit too harsh, I think. You need to redirect a bit of that Frank Lampard disdain towards Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because I think he deserves it a little bit more. Chelsea are going to be battling that top four. They're just too good not to. Hakim Ziyech is a stunningly good player. Christian Pulisic, when healthy, which is almost never, fantastic. And Timo Werner, Jimmy was critical of him probably the last time he was here and during the beginning of the season. But Timo Werner is going to score goals. He's going to have a great impact on that team. It's just, can they defend? Can they stop conceding goals? And they've done that these past few games. But like I said, they haven't played anyone too impressive. I'm not sold on them.
I mean, Jimmy, obviously looking at Chelsea, obviously Pulisic, will be a guy you guys will be very excited about, and rightly so. But I think one name that's not getting enough credit from that Chelsea team, and one player I do really respect, to be fair, in terms of his career, leadership, what he brings to teams he's played at the very highest level. Thiago Silva, do you think he's been the big factor behind it all? And obviously Lampard's the manager, but effectively Thiago Silva feels like the manager on the pitch for them at the minute. I think he's pretty much 5-6 years older than Chelsea's next oldest player. Is he the big senior head in that team that's kind of guiding the younger players now for you?
I think he's been massive. I think he's been a lot better than I think pretty much anyone expected him to be. It was kind of, unceremoniously ends up at Chelsea. Wasn't like there was actually that many teams looking for him. PSG clearly didn't seem to have any interest in retaining his services. But I think he's made a big difference because, defensively, Chelsea, talk about the holes in the defense. At the beginning of the season, at the end of last season, it was a major issue. I think a lot of it does have to do with the way Lampard sets them up, which is just he has no real interest in trying to defend. But I think Thiago Silva's made a massive difference there. I think Zuma's played better than I expected him to. Christensen, I can't say. To me, Christensen's just awful. He's awful. If he plays, then anybody can beat Chelsea if Christensen's back in the lineup, because that guy is just bad. But I think Thiago Silva, and he's kind of filled Christensen's spot since he's been healthy and I think he's made a big difference. I think you're seeing a lot of the signings make a difference. Ziyech has been great now that he's getting a run. They actually oddly look a little better without Havertz right now, who hasn't really, hit the ground running himself. But we saw kind of same thing with Werner. We were critical of him, and now he's, found his form. So with Chelsea, there's a hell of a lot of talent there. And you're seeing the leadership, like you said, from Silva that's, helped out a bunch. I think just not having Kepa in too, like Michael said, has made a difference. But I'm not fully sold on them yet, because I see still defensive issues there. I still don't know how I feel about Lampard as a manager. I don't necessarily think he's bad, but I don't necessarily see what he adds. I don't see him doing anything so much that makes me think, they're going to push and try to win the title. But they're going to be around where they are now. They're in fifth now. I wouldn't be surprised if they snuck in the top four. But at the same time, if you told me they missed out on it, it wouldn't surprise me that much either. but there's a lot of talent there. Like the talent's undeniable.
Joe, if you're Roman Abramovich, you've spent 222 million in one summer in obviously the current environment as well, which is absolutely unheard of in terms of compared to the other top European teams. What's the minimum for you, Roman Abramovich, you're expecting from that return, from Lampard this season? Is it a title? Or Champions, really?
No,
I
don't think he's expecting the title just because the gap between Liverpool and City was just so big for everyone else, last season. Top 4 minimum. If you don't get top 4, you'll be a goner. You can't spend that kind of money and not get Champions League. He'll want them to go deep in Europe. Abramovich is ruthless. He'll want them to go deep in Europe, and possibly a return on a cup. And Lampard's got to a few finals now, right? I know he's lost everyone, but he's got to a few finals. Just wanted to say that. But look, I mean, the personnel that Lampard has at his disposal, they're too good to not win games. I don't really rate him, everyone knows that anyway. But like you say, Thiago Silva's had a massive impact. Mendy, absolutely huge. I know he conceded. I think that was the first time he conceded in 7 games, though, prior to the Sheffield United game. The only one game they conceded within that run was when Kepa came back in the side. So it just shows you how poor he is. And it's crazy to think that he's the most expensive goalkeeper. I think they paid 70-odd mil or whatever it was. Crazy. But Chelsea are just too good to not be in that fight with top 4, which is painful. But like you say, we've not really seen them play anyone of note. When they played Liverpool, it was pretty shocking, to be fair, how he set them up, I think if I'm Abramovich and he's setting them up so defensively, not really wanting to have a go against Liverpool.
Playing left wing back.
This is what I'm saying. And he spent all that money. I'm expecting a return, and go and have a go. You've got Leeds United coming up from, the Championship, and they went and had a go. So, I don't know. They're going to be there or thereabouts, aren't they? I just think I thought it'd have gone tits up, if I'm being totally honest. And I think it still will. It still will. Because he's just not got enough about him, Of course, he can beat the teams that he's been beating of late, but when he's playing, they've got Spurs up soon, right? When they've got Spurs very soon, so that'll be a tough one. Mourinho will want to get one over. They've got to play Leeds United, and I know a lot of people won't see that as much of a matchup, but I believe Bielsa has Lampard's number. I do, so I think we'll win that game. Who else have they got to play? They've not really played anyone of note, have they? So let's see what they're about. When they start having to play the big boys, we'll have to wait and see.
We'll just talk about one more team, and we love to, just laugh at. I think all of us do. To be fair, Mike and Jimmy especially. I mean, do we look at this now and say that result Man United got at Everton is pretty much delayed, simply delayed Mauricio Pochettino? I mean, obviously, me and Joe have spoken about this a lot, and I mean, do you feel like that, Mike, that Poch is going to be in Manchester sooner or later? Whether it's at City, whether it's at Man United, he's going to turn up there sooner or later.
I don't know. That's Jimmy's thing. Jimmy believes that Pochettino is going to Manchester. He believes he's going somewhere. I don't know. I just don't think Ole should have a job. But I don't think the Manchester United board are competent enough to do anything about it. I think they're just so entrenched in that Ole is a good guy. He wins against PSG in the Champions League. And so they keep him on, and then they're going to keep having these up and down type things happen to them. He's just not good enough. You want to talk about someone who has no tactics. I mean, Ole is just, it's pretty shocking. I don't know if it delays the inevitable, because I don't think they're going to fire him. I just genuinely don't.
Jimmy, 15th in the league they are. 15th.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's pretty unreal, to be fair. It's pretty unreal. The fact the fact they won as well, and they'd been even lower if they dropped points against Everton, just like absolutely mad, to be fair. But I mean, what are you thinking, Jimmy? Are you thinking Poch on his way? I mean, me and Joe very much of that impression. I mean, what do you think that's all? It's inevitable that Ollie's going to? Do you think he even finishes the season, Solskjaer, at this rate?
Here's what I'll say: if Solskjaer finishes the season, I think Pochettino ends up in the blue side of Manchester. I'm not, because look, I'll say this. I would re-sign Pep as long as he wants today. I think some people are critical of Pep. You know, the Champions League hasn't gone the way it's, we were hoping necessarily, but I'd re-sign him today. But I think Pep's leaving. I think it actually is a real possibility that he's going to leave. And I think that may be the reason Pochettino hasn't signed up anywhere yet. I wouldn't surprise me. But if I was United, if I was running it, I would have hired him, the day he was fired from Tottenham. I would have had Ole out and had him in. But Ole does this thing. He does just enough. Every time it looks like he's finally going to be gone, he finds a way to do just like something impressive enough that he stays. Like, it would not surprise me at all if they lose the next few matches. They lose to West Brom, lose to Southampton and West Ham, or win one of those, but then come out and get a result against PSG, get a result against City, and he finds a way to just hang on, which is great because they continue to just be awful. Like, that's what happens. He hangs on, and this is what they become. That last year, during Project Restart, they looked pretty good. Mason Greenwood just came out of the gate and was just unstoppable for a while, and it was enough to, propel them into the Champions League. But they're not very good. I think, to your point, Pochettino just makes so much sense, and he's what they need. He's someone who can change the attitude, the style, just the whole direction they're in. But he's not this abrasive character like you've seen with Van Gaal and like you saw with Mourinho. He'd also, if you bring him in, I don't think he'd go in unless he knew he was there for an extended period of time so that he can truly make the transition they need to make.
If you are Pochettino, though, and you have a choice between taking over from Pep at City or going into that absolute mess in terms of he's trying to rebuild his career as well. I mean, Joe, mate, I mean, it's an obvious choice, isn't it? If he does have Man United coming to him, but he knows that City job's going to come up, he's probably going to just reject it and say, you know what, I'll go for the easier job, the job where I can finally win a trophy, because he goes to Man United, he's basically doing what he had to do right at the start of the job at Tottenham, really, isn't he, mate?
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, I'm surprised that Ollie's still in a job. Like I said a few times that I thought they'd have sacked him during this time, just due to the time that we had off and the fact that we started seeing Poch on the media circuit, and he'd been very quiet, and then all of a sudden he just pops his head out, and it's like, oh, we've got a few interviews with Poch, and he did Monday Night Football, and it just all felt a little bit like something's happening here. There was reports in the media, and I think the Everton wins probably saved him his job, although I did think, regardless of the result, he was going to go. I thought, time up, Ollie. And I think even the most hardened Man United fans now, I know what he's done for the club, but all say, when I hear them speak, it's just the same cycle. Like you guys have just mentioned, they'll go on a run, they'll lose, they'll go. Do you know what I mean? It's just up and down. There's never going to be any sort of longevity. You can't really see what he's doing with the side. He's brought in Van der Beek, who's scoring on international duty. He's not even getting played at Man United. I just don't understand what's going on. Was Van der Beek even one of his signings? It feels to me there's that they bring the players in. I'm not so sure. I don't know. But yeah, I just don't know what he's doing with them. But I will say we'll struggle against them because of the way they play and the pace that they have in the counter, like if you let Man United play, they shite. But if you go at Man United, then they'll just sit and boom, right, we'll get you on counter. Martial, Rashford, Greenwood, whoever you want, and they've got so much pace, it's electric, and some top players. I think the key with Man United is just give them the ball. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, have the ball. And then work from there.
Just give it to Maguire. He just knows. He knows he's going to make a mistake somewhere along the line, or De Gea. It's just brilliant. I mean, guys. I mean, it's not been a great last 3, 4, 5 games for all of us, but just glad to finishing it on, just laughing at the less fortunate. Just good to laugh at the less fortunate. Thank God we're not them. That's all we can say. That's all we can say. But guys, I think obviously just to finish off with, your favourite, the part of the show that you guys were desperate to join back in. I know Jimmy was saying how much he loves the quiz. How much he was desperate to get back in with the quiz, and Mike as well. I mean, let's go with it, guys. We're back in it.
It's that time again. It's time for All Smart Aren't We? With your host, Yanni Alieski.
Is that the extent of your week? Is that the extent of your week?
I had to think of something. Just flick this around. So guys, as you know, home or away? So we're going to go to Mike first.
Home.
Home or away, mate? What are you going?
Home.
What are you going?
Home.
Going home first. Bad choice, mate. Awful choice. Much easier questions away, but there you go, mate. So, Wayman, have you got the timer there, mate?
I've got the timer, Oscar. I'm ready.
Let's go. How old was Jack Wilshere on his debut for Arsenal?
16.
Correct. Who did Aston Villa sign Ollie Watkins from this summer?
Brentford.
Correct. Who was the last Brazilian to win the Ballon d'Or?
Ronaldo.
Incorrect. Jurgen Klopp has managed 2 clubs in Germany, Borussia Dortmund and which other club?
Oh, I know it. I think it's Mainz, but I don't think that's right. Mainz
Correct.
is the answer.
Excellent. Juventus signed Artur Melo from which team?
Oh, Barcelona.
Correct. Which outfield player appeared in the Champions League in 3 different decades?
Pass.
Incorrect. Which player with 653 games has made the most Premier League appearances?
James Milner.
Incorrect. Who was the first team to win the Premier League other than Man United?
Arsenal.
Incorrect.
Stop. There you go, Oscar.
The history questions kill me.
4 there for Mike.
You did better than I expected.
Send that for Mike.
I want to know what the answers are. What you got wrong? Kaka.
Kaka, yeah. Kaka.
The 3 different decades. Anyone get that one?
Nah.
Yeah, no.
Totti?
It's actually Ryan Giggs.
Ryan Giggs.
Most appearances in the Premier League?
Gareth Barry.
Yes.
That was going to be my guess too.
He's
I was
very
going
good.
to say teammate of Milner,
You
Barry.
know, I thought I heard Milner had some crazy number of appearances this week when I was watching a game, and it came to me. I knew it was wrong.
And then the first team to win the Premier League other than Man United?
It'd been
So
Is it something like
Blackburn.
Yeah,
It is
this is a
Blackburn.
I was gonna say.
Williams on 5. Blackburn 1995. So we'll go on to Jimmy.
I'm nervous now. He did better than I expected.
Did you get more than last time, Mike? How many
I
did you get?
I got 3 last time. I wanted the record. I didn't get it.
I'm going to struggle. I can feel it already, but let's do it.
So, are we ready, Wayman? Are we ready?
We are.
Let's go. How many Premier League titles has Jose Mourinho won?
3.
Correct. Who is the highest scoring American in Premier League history?
Brian McBride?
Incorrect.
It's Dempsey, isn't
What
it?
other English club has Leeds forward Rodrigo Moreno played for?
Oh, shit. Damn it. Pass.
How many times has Jamie Vardy scored 20 or more goals in the Premier League season?
Once.
Incorrect. Who
They suck.
scored the opening goal of the game in Bayern Munich's victory over Dortmund last weekend?
Serge Gnabry.
Incorrect. Which
Jeez.
MLS franchise team does David Beckham own?
Miami International. Or Inter Miami.
I'll accept. Correct. With 202 clean sheets, which Premier League keeper has the most clean sheets in history?
Peter Schmeichel.
Incorrect. Which
Stop.
country?
Go on. Yeah, go on, finish, mate. Go on.
I started, so I'll finish. Which country has appeared in 3 World Cup finals but never won one of them?
The Netherlands.
Correct.
Yep.
That's 3 for Mike.
Oh, it's Jim. Oh, God.
Sorry,
I suck.
Jim, sorry, mate. I've just completely got.
It's fine. You could say it for Mike. I'll take his 4. I
Yeah,
suck.
Jimmy got 4. Mike got.
What are the answers then? I want to know the answers.
Okay, let's go through it. I'm disappointed though, Jimmy. I feel like knocking a mark off because you got the highest scoring American in Premier League history wrong.
Yeah, is it Dempsey?
Deuce.
It's Dempsey.
Dempsey.
Well,
Deuce.
see, I thought Dempsey was too obvious, so I'm like, oh, it's probably McBride.
Outrageous! You didn't get that one, mate.
Yeah, that was bad.
What other English club has Rodrigo Moreno played for? On loan, it was.
Bolton.
Yes.
Oh, see, I don't remember that. That I don't remember.
How many times has Jamie Vardy scored 20 or more goals in a season?
Has to be
4.
3 or 4.
It's 3. 3 times he's done it.
Oh,
Who scored the opening goal in Bayern Munich's victory over Dortmund last weekend?
It was Haaland. It should have been Lewandowski, but it was Haaland, right?
It's actually Marco Reus.
Marco Reus, yeah.
Okay. Nope, I was way off. Wrong team and everything.
Most clean sheets in Premier League history.
Petr Cech.
You got the wrong Peter.
Yes. I mean, Wayman is just like.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. You guys, I'm very disappointed in myself, quite frankly.
The American. I mean, I put Landon Donovan, but I mean,
No, Donovan. That's definitely not Donovan. I knew it was either Dempsey or McBride, but I thought Dempsey was too obvious. Damn it.
Oh, nice.
Disappointing, Jimmy. Disappointing.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in myself. Quite frankly.
The guys, I guess. If I've got to thank you guys for joining us once again. And just to mention again, guys.
Where can we find you again, boys? For those that are watching.
Yeah, so we're on pretty much any podcast app. Apple Podcasts is the main one. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Soccer Mostly. Emails mostly@gmail.com. We try to be really interactive with everybody, especially on like Twitter. We're pretty good with that. So yeah, definitely reach out.
Cool, man. Make sure you do check them out. 100%.
I saw Mike ranting after the Arsenal game today. I saw Mike's tweets. He was not happy. He was not. No. I've got to admit, I did enjoy. After Leeds lost as well.
I was
another team.
I was furious about Leeds. Leeds lost me a lot of money.
Oh, really? Just before we wrap up, guys, everyone remember that this video is sponsored by Football Prizes. This week, you can get yourself a Luke Ayling signed Leeds United framed mount, and you can also be in with a chance of winning a Rodrigo signed boot that's framed as well, which would be pretty special. £4.95 a ticket for that one, £2.75 for the Luke Ayling one. Like you say, you've got to be in it to win it. Alas tried to get me the Calvin shirt the other day. Unfortunately, she didn't get it. But I did get myself a Bielsa signed medal. She really likes Bill Ayling, so I think she might be in with that one as well. So I'll let her pretend she's buying it for herself, but I'll take it from her. But yeah, no, Oscar, all done?
Yeah, the guest guys will speak again around Christmas and just see how horrifically wrong with the predictions have been once again.
That sounds good.
Guys, anyway.